Welcome everybody to Today in Space. Today I have a very special guest with us, Cyril from Vaonis. He is the CEO and he's helping create these products that is helping the astronomy community have access to the stars and to view in a more simple way than ever before. And I'm really excited to talk to Cyril and talk about who he is as a person and where science captured his imagination, and then we're going to talk about the products that Vaonis offers, dive a little bit more into that. But Cyril, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi Alex, thank you for the invitation, and a real pleasure to be with you today to speak about astronomy and observation of the night sky, so thank you.
Where I want to start is let's dive into you as a person and you as a person in science. So one of the things that really intrigued me was, you know, sometimes when people develop products, it's not necessarily the person, the end consumer that develops that product. Sometimes it's just someone that develops a product, thinks it's a good idea, finds a niche market. Tell us about how you got into astronomy. What's your story there?
My story about astronomy started 15 years ago when I was a teenager. So I live in the south of France, in Montpellier, and my grandmother lived in east of France, southeast. In Nice, and in Nice there is near Monaco, maybe you know this city, and there is a wonderful observatory, professional observatory from I think the 90s, from something like 18 or 19th century. So a very old observatory, and when I visited it for the first time, so I was 15, and it was amazing to see this very big telescope for the first time of my life. And at this moment, I think it was the first day when I started to be interested by this subject.
Did it continue from there? Did you immediately start going into astronomy? Was that your ultimate look, or were you thinking of doing something else?
Yeah, directly after this visit, but it was more as a hobby for me at the beginning. It was not. I never thought it could be one day my job. My everyday life. So I didn't know what I can study except optics, because I was fascinated by optics, and that's the real axe to enter in astronomy. It was by the optic and the instrument before the astronomical aspect and the stars, clusters and everything. So it was by the instruments, and so I started to study optics. And after aerospace, about electronics in satellites, and I decided to stop my degree. It's the equivalent, I think, in aerospace, to launch the company, because I had to do it, and I think I will explain it in a few seconds.
Yeah, so that's fascinating. Yet another aerospace engineer on our podcast that has taken a route outside of their degree, as I'm one of those people. So that's interesting. So yes, let's jump into that. So you decided to, while you're getting your degree, you decide we're going to launch this company. Where did that? Tell us about that.
I like very user-friendly experience, and you can find it in drones, for example. Because Vaonis started something like 5 years ago, and 5 years ago it was a good moment for drones. You started to see them everywhere and things like that. So with DJI and this kind of brand. So when I see how easily can be a drone, I just thought there is no reason for astronomy to didn't have the equivalent of a drone, but to observe the universe. So yeah, with that, with GoPros, with what you can get on your smartphone at a photo phone. So all the technology was there. The only thing to do was to place it together and to create this one. So that's the origin.
That's great, and I want to talk about the process of like getting into astronomy, because I think this is where Vaonis really takes hold. It was my first thought, because I haven't had the opportunity to use Stellina, and Vespera is brand new. So my first view, obviously, I see Apple. I see that just simplicity of the hardware and the software merging together to cut out all the extra things that you need to do. And I hope this is a compliment. It seemed very much like a GoPro from my experience, where, you know, as someone that records and creates content, you know, there's a use for something that just does it right. You don't, you know, it's great to have an optical lens, like a DSLR camera, to do so much with it, but how much time does it take to set that up? Can you really just click and go? So that's where the value, as I see it, is. I can tell you, spent hours outside setting up a telescope. Especially when you don't do it for a while. The first thing is it's been sitting in a hot house. You take it outside, it's all foggy. Now you got to wait for it to cool down, and then just dialing it in and looking, and you're taking time. And then if I was on an old Celestron telescope growing up, and could never quite get the automated tracking to work, but it was old star maps.
Same story.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. So tell me more about that.
When I explained to you about the drones and all these technologies, and in parallel, I was an amateur astronomer, so I spent so many hours to try to observe the universe. And like a lot of people, I started with Dobson, so with an eyepiece, and it's very easy to use. So on that aspect, it's a very cool instrument. But when you are using a Dobson, you need to use your eye, and that's the problem. It's not about the telescope; it's about our eyes. Not enough sensitive. We cannot see a lot of details. We cannot see a lot of colors. And I manage an association in the south of France with a lot of different amateur astronomers, and it was always the same reaction when you're observing in a telescope and you don't really know what is astronomy. You're like, okay, it's cool, but you can feel that the general public have this feeling of it was a little bit disappointing. So that was the reason. I saw that observation with an eyepiece was disappointing. Astrophotography it's too difficult. You need to know so many things about mechanical, about electronic software, so too difficult for people. And we tried to merge these two different sides of astronomical device.
And let's talk more about what the difference, what value are you adding to the amateur astronomer experience and everything. I think some of the things that's so lost on beginners, and I'm still a beginner, very much so, the stacking of images and the processing that happens afterwards, never mind mounting the camera to the telescope in the first place, which is a whole other thing. What does the Vaonis product do for a user? How does that user experience get even easier than ever before?
The fact to suppress all the technical issues that you can find on a classical telescope, that's the main point. And the user experience, it's fun because a lot of people are asking us on social media and everything, what I have to do with the Stellina and Vespera. There is nothing to do, so it's not interesting. I can go on Google pictures to see. And for me, it's very interesting because it shows that for many people, amateur astronomy is just the fact to set up your instrument, to try to observe something. But it's not astronomy. It's the fact that you love instruments. And for me, the real astronomy is observing the night sky and trying to understand what you are observing. And with Stellina and Vespera, it's the user experience without any technical issues and difficulties allow you to be focused on knowledge, observation, the fact to share with other people, and to be able to do your image processing very easily, and all the different aspects.
And I'll add on to that because I wanted to at least just provide another example for people that are in that boat, that if they're an amateur, they just see it. I think that's a great insight. One of the things for me, for this podcast, we're trying to provide something on a daily basis. And one of the things I've wanted to do since the beginning is set up a telescope and observe long-term, over time, and watch something as it goes. And there's really... It takes so much work to get that set up. You have to create your own observatory, which is I've met some amazing people online that have done that. I'm thinking of Elliot Astronomy right now as a great channel who does that. But I think it's this idea of work stacking that I ended up finding through 3D printing. Because one of the great things about 3D printing for me is I can be doing work like this, right? We can be talking, I can be doing other things, while my printer is doing work at the same time. So I'm stacking what I'm able to do with and this is what got me excited about the platform, is I can say, okay, and I saw that, I think it's Vespera has 3 objects that it can observe at any time that you can schedule, and then is Stellina is unlimited, so you could set up things to observe all the time. That to me is so mind-blowing. Like that is exactly what we're looking for. We can get people to continuously see what our observation is from afar. Has that been, is that seen a lot, or is that something people see when they first buy it, or is that something they find after they use it?
No, I think it's after they use it. Just one thing, you said it before, the best telescope is the telescope that you use, and I think it's an important thing. Whatever, if there is a sensor or not, a computer inside or not, and that is our first and our main focus at Vaonis, create telescopes that people will use. After, about the fact to observe frequently, every night, every 2 days, every week, I think it's really when you buy Stellina or Vespera and you start to use it, there is a feeling of, now I want to observe that and that and that and that. And so if I can plan my observation, it will be a good way to do it. So yeah, you have to try it to understand really the user experience and all the potential.
Yeah, and I agree. And one of the things I thought was really useful, so on your website, Vaonis, VAONIS.com, you guys have a video on there that it seems like just a product demo, kind of overviews the whole product as it is. And your application is set up with the amateur astronomer in mind. Like it's recommending things based on your geolocation. So you don't even necessarily have to think about what you're going to look at. You just have kind of a menu and you can go, wow, I can look. And it's not, I'm observing 3 things in like 4 hours outside. It's, wow, I can set this up and just look at everything. Like that is a whole different experience.
Exactly. If there is no cloud, just have to place it outside, launch the app, and you will have some advices to know what you can observe. And it's all the thing, because in astronomy, when you start to observe, you don't really know what you can observe. You think about the moon, like everybody, some planets, obviously. And after you're like, okay, M31, M42, this kind of objects, but after 20, 30 objects, you don't know what to observe. And with the app and the fact to share with the community, you can have a lot of advice.
Amazing. Let's talk about the team. So obviously, you guys are at this point now 5 years in, right? Am I correct?
5 what? Sorry?
5 years in, the company itself?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah? So talk about building that team. How did that start? Are these people that you met in your aerospace career and in amateur astronomy in that society that you're helping work? Like, is that where it came from? And how did it build to where it is today?
The first employee was very important because he's the CTO today, Giles. And I have some dreams, some ideas, and after he take it, and a few months after, I have a product. So he is incredible for that. He's very good to create products just with ideas. So that's the point to start the team. And after, I had some business angels, so some people who gave me some money to launch the company. And they are entrepreneurs with a lot of experience, so they helped me to hire the good people, the good team. And now we are 15 in the team, so it's always a little team, but we will be 20 in a few months, and I hope 100 in 2 years too.
That's amazing. So that's really great growth for a small company. I think I've worked in many small companies before, or at least a few. It's an interesting dynamic. I've been on the technical side, providing technical support, whether being an engineer or working in applications. And seeing from the inside how a company grows, sometimes you can grow too fast. And it seems like you guys have a very nice, steady growth, but you're penetrating the market in a way that you really need right now.
It's very, very, very important to be very careful about the speed of the company, the growing of the company. Why? Because it's an industrial product. You have to manufacture hundreds and hundreds of products. So if there is one issue, only one issue in the product, and there is more than 300 pieces inside. So if there is one issue, your company can die. because you have so much, a lot of customer service, and you're dead. So after 3 years of research and development, so we took our time. It was a lot of work. We launched the first year of sales. It was perfect. No product in stock at the end of the year.
That's great.
Crazy. Last year it was the same, and this year it will be difficult in December, so in a few days, because it's the end of our stock of this year. So this ramp up is very, very important, because if you have a big stock at the end of the year, you're dead because you don't have any cash. So you have to find the good level of sales that you expect for the year after to secure the company.
Do you see how has this year been different than years before? Obviously, there's a ton that's different, but you guys seem to have a really big online presence. Has your approach to that changed, or what are you guys seeing on your end with this? How it affects the company?
The big difference this year was about the communication, because we had a lot of reviews of Stellina in magazines, on YouTube, on a lot of different supports. So that was the main thing, and obviously the Kickstarter of Vespera was very, very important for our sales in general. And we are a very young company, but the market of amateur astronomy is very small. So it's easy to touch a lot of people. It's not like we are not creating speakers or smartphones, so it's easy to get visibility in the area of astronomy. After, the main challenge will be to be known by the general public, and that will be the next step, and that's why we created Vespera, to give the access to the night sky at everyone.
That's great. So let's talk numbers. Let's talk a little bit of specifics so we can nerd out a little bit. Let's talk about Stellina first, because that's your customer available product right now outside of the Kickstarter. So let's talk about Stellina. What are the nuts and bolts, and how much does it cost? How do people get that?
Okay, so Stellina, so this big baby, it weighs about 10 kilograms. Sorry, I don't know in pounds. So
22 pounds. Something like that. 2.2. I know the conversion.
So Stellina is a $4,000 telescope. I can answer at the first question that could be, but it's a lot. But if you want to buy all you need to do the same, it will be something like $3,000. So the $1,000 more is about the user experience, the quality, because it's all produced in France, just at 10 minutes of our company.
Oh, wow.
And
okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's very important, because you can do all your products in China and never take a look at it, but it was not our politic and our strategy. We want to be very near our production line, and so all the products are made just few minutes ago from the company. So in Stellina you have the optic, as you know. So this is the lens, it's 80 millimeters. And inside you have a mirror just there at 45 degrees. And there you have the sensor. So just in front of the sensor, you have a light pollution filter and an autofocus. It's the only telescope in the world with an autofocus. You can think it's easy to do an autofocus, but there is no one. No telescope exists with that. And after you have the two axes, this axis, this one, as you can expect. So in the app, you just have to choose an object, click on it, and Stellina will go automatically on it with the motors, and it will start to track the object in the night. So you can go in your living room, wherever you want, with a Wi-Fi connection, with an iPad or what you want. And you can see the pictures with the live stacking systems that you explained before, created minutes after minutes. So that's the idea. And the tripod is a carbon fiber tripod made in the north of Italy. So one more time, the quality aspect was very important. So with this first product, it was really focused on the technological revolution, but the price is high. And with Vespera, the goal was to use again all these technologies, but in a smaller telescope.
That I really have a lot of respect for that approach. We've seen it in a lot of different ways to keep it relevant to, I think, this industry with Elon Musk, and I think especially how he approached Tesla. There was that roadster kind of model where it's like, okay, we need people to invest. If we can get people with the money that are really the enthusiasts, really the people that love it, and we can give them a product that's great and exciting, we'll start there and then offer it to everyone else. That's kind of how, planes and everything else that's developed, it's kind of been the pathway. So I think that's great, and I think it's super smart, and in retrospect, definitely good that you guys kept everything so local and close. That's definitely pays dividends nowadays. As someone who knows the background of optics and sourcing all this stuff, was that a helpful skill for you as CEO, as combining your technical and kind of big picture CEO view? Was that helpful?
About the quality of the pictures, you mean, of Stellina?
Yeah, and your experience as someone who knows optics at a very detailed level, did that help you, or was that something you had to step back from because you knew too much?
No, and to be honest, I haven't got a lot of time to be focused only on the optics. So we worked with a French office specialized in optics, the fact to design optics, and they are the best in France. So I'm very happy to have the occasion to work with them. And I had the occasion to discuss with Quentin Sagnier, which is a very famous French entrepreneur and the CEO of De Vialet. De Vialet is a very famous brand for speakers. I love this brand, and if you take a look to the company De Vialet, you will see that there is some parallel in terms of design and vision. And Quentin told me that a good entrepreneur don't have to take any decision himself. He just has to be sure that the decision taken by other people is a good one. And I completely agree with that. And my job is not to take all the decision and design the optic and the mechanic and everything. It's just to hire the good people and to be sure that what they are working on is the good thing.
That is so important, Cyril. Like that, I'm very happy to hear you say that. That gives me so much hope for where you guys are going to go in the future. Because as far as a business and knowing that, I think that's very humbling that you did that you were able to step back. I don't think a lot of people in that arena who are technical and go to being the CEO have that. So that's great. I think that's awesome.
It's difficult. It's very difficult because I love to create telescopes and spend all my time to assembly pieces and things like that and to draw new telescopes. But if I want to be the best CEO that I can for Vaonis, I have to hire the people to do that. And the fact to have the knowledge on what is a good optic and what is a good sensor help me every day to be sure that everything is under control and that I have the good people to work on.
I think that is such an important thing for young people in STEM and science and technology to understand. It's something I've learned in my years out of school now. It's not something that's spoken about or talked about, at least not in the U.S. I can't speak for over in Europe and France, but
it's the same in France.
Really?
Yeah, really. And we think that the CEO do everything, but no. If I can one day, I will be on my chair all the day, and just people will come explain to me the problem or what they want to do. And I will just have to get all the visibility on the company and to help them to take the good decision. But if I can take 0 decision by day, I will be the best CEO that I can.
I love that. I think now, did that come naturally? Did that come from just being a listener and having good people give good advice?
The fact to be open to discussion with shareholders and even other entrepreneurs, it's very important. And I know that my best quality, I have a lot of bad point on my personality, obviously, but a lot of my shareholders told me that my best quality is the fact to be open to the other and to listen a lot. Because I'm young, there is not a lot of CEO at 30 years old with this product, and I'm very proud of my team and what I've done with Vaonis. I did that thanks to my opening. I don't know. English. The fact you
Yeah,
don't think the other one.
I think it's a great mindset. I think I can't say enough good about that because there's so little of that now. And again, to see it from someone, in their 30s, they must just be super excited that that's the case. How has your product line, how has Vaonis as a company, what have you seen it done to affect astronomy in the near future here? And then where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
That's the subject. Very interesting subject because it's just a shame for me the fact that there is not a lot of people that are observing the sky. So amateur astronomer one more time. I saw some figures about the number of amateur astronomers in the world for the last 10 years and things like that, and it was very disappointing to see that it's not a curve like that. It's more something like that. And why? Because the Celestron that you mentioned before, there is not a lot of revolution between the Celestron 40 years ago and now. And that's the point. It's only about instruments. I'm convinced about that. And I'm sure that the day where company will create a new kind of products, I hope, it will change. Obviously, it will not be Vaonis alone. We will have a lot of competitors, and I hope we will have a lot. It will be a good thing and a good signal for the market. And for me, the astronomy of the future and in 10 years is not at all the same amateur astronomy than today. Today, most of the people are alone, observing maybe in an association, but one per week or something like that, or per month. And you're lonely a lot of time. The astronomy in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years will be much more collaborative, participative, and people will observe together. For example, if you have one Stellina in Paris and another one in New York, maybe we can observe together. I don't know in terms of time zone, but it was just an example. But maybe we can observe the same object at the same time, merge the pictures to get a better result. So there is so many collaborative aspects that we can develop in astronomy thanks to the intelligence that we can embed in this kind of product. So the general public will come to astronomy, and with companies like SpaceX and all these subjects about space and go outside and observe the sky, I think it will be very interesting to observe amateur astronomer world in the next few years, and I'm convinced that the community will grow.
Yeah, I love that outlook, and I think, I mean, just think about since the hilarious thing is we were both in aerospace engineering at the same time. The space shuttle retired. A lot of what, and at least in the U.S., I can't speak for France, but that was a big linchpin in what people thought was going on in space. We had the International Space Station, but it died, it deafened across at least the U.S., if not the world. And to see where it is today is so exciting, and I didn't think we'd be here this quickly, but there's this huge return back, a lot of excitement brewing, and you bring up a great point about citizen science, about really that's the community that you're developing here, which, if you look at the big picture of science as a community, if we can get the citizen scientists to start developing their own things, then it's another pool for academia and all the major infrastructures, like all the different organizations, the ESA, NASA, to look at what they're doing and expand on it. So they have incubators of science happening across the world that are not tied to whatever system or budget that some organization is stuck to.
Yeah, and there is a lot of possible collaborations with NASA, and with private companies like mine and all our competitors, because we have a huge community with thousands of products around the world, and we have the quantity and they have the quality. They have Hubble and this kind of James Webb telescope in a few months, and so this kind
Hopefully.
of
Fingers crossed.
that time. So they have the quality, we have the quantity, and when Hubble telescope is observing something, after they need data during 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, and they cannot be focused on one object with a professional telescope. So we can use all this community to get data and to send it to big laboratories or organizations like NASA to help them to discover things.
I think it's a great place for what's the word I'm looking for? It's a great Hail Mary. It's a great long pass for the science organization and as a world, as scientists. We're seeing this with the U.S. space industry, where it used to be such a famine mindset of there's not enough resources, there's not enough place for companies to expand and explore, where in reality there's so much available to us. And I think that's what is great about your company, is that it's expanding a market that's just not being tapped into right now. And there are plenty of other ones that are out there. Like, even if, there are going to be people that complain about, the difference between having a lens that you can focus or very specific high-tech telescopes, you're not affecting those people. You're tapping into a market that's just straight up not doing it at all. And we're allowing for both to exist at the same time. And that's what I hope we continue doing here in the U.S. and around the world, which is invest in both. We don't need to choose just one. We can do and put our eggs into multiple baskets and not hope that we end up in a position like we did with the space shuttle, where it's gone. We lose our capability. Now what do you do? So that's great. One of the last questions I want to ask, looking to the future, as the development and input of Starlink satellites and other constellation networks expand, I think there's no other better way to give access to the internet around the world. I think it's a progress we're going to deal with. Have you guys looked into dealing with that issue? What's your take on how that's going to affect the community moving forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when we saw the Starlink constellation, we were a little bit stressed about that. But in the end, it doesn't matter for us. Why? Because with Stellina, and it's the same with Vespera, the field of view, those instruments are approximately the same. And it's not a wide angle. It's approximately the size of the moon in terms of two times the moon in terms of field of view. So it's not so big. So when you have Starlink constellation on your field of view, you are not very lucky. So maybe it will be one night every every month or something like that, maybe less. And when it happens, it doesn't matter, because with the image processing, automatically it will recognize that it's not a star, because it's moving in the sensor. So we can automatically remove it. Like planes, we already do it for planes. So it's not very problematic for us.
That's what was the great thing that I thought for, one thing when you look at a product is that it's going to have longevity. And I think the Starlink debate is detrimental for people who have the high-end telescopes that require a lot of tinkering. And it sounds like you guys are just going to be able to go through it without any issues. And I mean, I don't know if you have to go as far as, taking the satellite data of where they are and input it into your software so that it knows where it is. I mean, the fact that you guys can cut out frames anyways, I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
But
maybe one day we will have to do that, but for the moment, I'm not sure. I don't know if you had the occasion to see one train of Starlink.
I haven't yet.
It's 10 minutes, 15 minutes maximum. So if you're observing during 2 hours or 3 hours, finally, it's not a big deal. So it's a good idea. Thank you. Maybe we will
take it. It just popped in my head. I figured, and it's trying to think of the one thing that I think a scientific mindset, maybe we'll close up on this, and having that perspective is there are solutions out there. There's never just one, and it really is how do you spend your time with the solutions that you think are the most important. I think that, and you were discussing that with as CEO. You have to give yourself focus to be there to make those decisions. With everything that's going on, I think that a scientific mindset with the way that the world is today is something that's really important just for people to understand truth, and that even in science, truth is something you're always trying to create and manipulate and figure out more. There isn't just one truth. It's not binary, unfortunately. It's not true or false. Where do you see, how does that hit you as an idea of a scientific mindset entering the world that we live in, and what's your hope for the future and where things can change?
For the general public, you mean? People that are not observing the sky, or what kind of people?
Humanity, and really, like, we can be specific here. We can be specific about like, what is Vaonis and what are they offering from a scientific mindset? What are you offering to the world that can help open people's minds to the scientific mindset?
It's always about education and the fact to help people to understand what are the different the environments around them. We need scientists to understand what are the biology, what the sun, what is everything you want, and you need tools to observe it yourself and to get some knowledge about that. And we have a lot of explanation in the app to help people to understand what they are observing and to help them to get more consciousness. Consciousness.
Open their minds.
Open their mind about the universe, the place of Earth in the universe, and the fact that we have to take care of our planet because we are a very teeny planet in the universe. And so astronomy for that is wonderful, and create instruments that help people to get some education and content about astronomy is our little step to help humanity.
That's amazing. I look forward to the day where I get to use one of your products and look at the sky. Cyril, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the story of Vaonis and Stellina and soon to be Vespera in the market. Where can people find this? So this is going to be released the end of November, start of December, so people might be looking for gifts last minute. What's available this year and just even in the future, of where they can find it?
So for Stellina, you can buy it on our website, so vaonis.com, or at OPT store, a famous store of telescopes based in the West Coast, and also Adorama on the East Coast, and there is other retailers in the US. And after, for the little baby, it will be impossible to find it during 12 months because we have 1,800 Vespera to produce, so we will have a lot of work, and it's a lot. So it will be at the beginning of 2022, since January 2022, and you will find Vespera on our website and in some retailers.
Thank you again so much for being on. I look forward to see how much more Vaonis is able to cut through the sky and let us look, even though we have light pollution and things like that. It's amazing that you guys have all that built in to let us do that. Any last words for the folks out there?
I can just tell to your viewers, people that are looking at your videos, just take some time to observe the night sky, not with our telescope or with your smartphone or whatever you want, even with your naked eye, but just take the time to observe, and you don't need any information, you just need to observe, and you will try to understand the fact that we are only a little planet in the universe, and we have to take care of them. For me, that's the final message. It's good to know a lot of things, but after we have to get action, and the fact to know that we have to take care of our planet is the best thing that Vaonis can do, I think.
Cyril, thank you again for being on, and everybody, spread love, spread science, be well, and we'll talk to you next time on Today in Space.